What's up, everybody? So, this week on the show, I got Jesse.
What's up, guys? I'm a fill-in.
Jesse's totally a fill-in. So, yeah, we had some cancellations this week.
I'm a factory second. I'm irregular.
Everyone loves a good factory outlet mall, right?
Yeah, second rate.
So, yes, we are in the saga right now. We're doing an episode, which we should just do this more often.
Yeah, we should.
And
Saga Talks.
We are going to be talking about throwing the first ever the old clothing show in Toronto a couple weeks ago.
Nice one. He just threw that out on the fly, so that's where we're going today, guys.
Welcome to Vintage and Soft with True Heifetz. Welcome to Vintage and welcome to Vintage and Soft with True Heifetz. Welcome to Vintage and welcome to Vintage and Soft. True Heifetz. Welcome to Vintage and welcome to Vintage and Soft. Vintage and Soft. We got vintage clothing by the rack. Yeah, just check out my Insta. How you gon' argue with that? Everything you see, I manifest. I'm an architect. I think I'ma run it back. We got vintage clothing by the rack. Just check out my Insta. How you gon' argue with that? Everything you see, I manifest. I'm an architect. I think I'll have some of that.
All right. So, what's up, dude?
Chill, bud.
How are you?
I'm good. Good. Got a good sleep last night. Flew in from Toronto last night. Good. Excited for the bowl. Another good one, I think. Loco's in town. That's cool.
Yeah.
Taryn's back in town.
Yeah. The
Thrift
Thrift
Lord.
Lord is back in Cali.
Kelly's around. Everyone's around. So,
If you guys want to come see us at the bowl, we're pretty much every month again. Booth 3140. Is that what we are now? They changed the booth numbers.
They changed the numbers.
Basically, you
we're
go
against-
over the bridge. You go over the bridge to the white section, hang a right, back right-hand corner. You find the Heifetz brothers and whoever's hanging out with us that month.
This is correct.
So I wanted to talk about throwing an event.
Yeah.
So to preface this, Jesse hits me up probably, I would say no more than 6 weeks out and says, bro, I forgot to tell you, bro. I've been kind of talking to these guys and we're going to throw this event in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, that's pretty tight considering
It was very tight timeline.
we had not done this. We had our partner, Mark, great
Shout
guy.
out, Mark.
Also previously as Deadstock Depot.
Google Chrome Boy on IG. Mark Keelan, great guy. So we basically how it worked out. My good friend Drew Hale from Last Planet, he promotes, does a lot of parties, raves, night events, music events, things like that. Good friend of mine. Him and a couple other buddies, Gabriel, James, they acquired this warehouse space in Toronto. And we had loosely talked about doing like a clothing type market there. Initially, I was thinking about just trying to find another event promoter like Deadstock Depot or there's other guys that were doing smaller events in Toronto, just to basically just middle it to them and just be like, look, here's the space, do an event. Then I got to thinking, I was like, well, I think I want to give, try my hand at this and put F as in Frank behind it, get bid stitch behind it and give it a shot and see what you can do. And I'm used to working kind of on the fly on tight timelines at times. I just kind of wing it. And
we had spoken over the years about doing events, and the old clothing show was a wicked show back in the day in Toronto that kind of went defunct.
How long ago? Let me preface this with that. The old clothing show was started in the 80s in Toronto. It was a huge show, vintage clothing show, and it ran for over about 20 years up until the early 2000s. And then it just went defunct. And so we brought the name back and came back as the old clothing show because we wanted to bring that vibe. So my vibe for it was you have events like Virtual, shout out Chris. You have events like ThriftCon, big up all the ThriftCon crew.
And everybody else out there throwing events.
Yeah,
There's many events
tons
right now in America and Canada.
Those are just the two
great to see.
Yeah, those are just the two that come to mind. But there's lots. And But what I saw, and then you have like other events like that we used to do, like Inspiration, which hasn't happened in a while. You got like Faded show coming up, which we're doing out to Bowie Coke Mirror. That's coming up in Providence, Rhode Island, end of May.
May 28th. Make sure you check out Faded. We'll put the link in.
So that's kind of more like along the lines of inspiration, or from what I've surmised so far.
I think that's like a mix of like, you know, a hype and inspiration market. It's going to be a good mix.
So for anyone who doesn't know, like Inspiration was a show put on by Rin Tanaka, who's a famous author in the vintage clothing world. He put out books called My Freedom and a number of other books as well. And he did a show for, I think, like 7 years or so called Inspiration. It happened in LA in February. And it was like all true vintage, like real vintage. Like all the heaviest hitters came out, and that was a sick show. We did it pretty much every year, I think.
Yeah, we did the start. We were there.
We're there for the very beginning.
The first year was in the Santa Monica Airport hangar.
That's right.
Super sick venue, very like.
Second year was at the Queen Mary.
Yeah, which was again in like the bow. The Queen Mary, if you don't know, is a fucking ship parked or docked in
Long Beach.
Long Beach. And it's like in the fucking guts of this ship. And
yeah,
you could go into like the crazy engine rooms and shit.
It was really cool.
And everybody stayed on the ship.
Yeah, the first year we stayed on the ship.
Yeah.
And then eventually it moved to like the downtown LA spot where
it's called like the wholesale district market.
Yeah. But anyhow, so you know, you have all these shows going on that are kind of like what I'll say like hype, like t-shirts mostly, 90s and 2000s and stuff like that. And then you have like this older kind of style show like Inspiration, and like the old clothing show used to kind of be like that, you know, a lot of true vintage, like, you know, things like 40s dresses and, you know, like real true vintage. And so my thought process, my concept for the old clothing show that we were going to do was like, I wanted to bring those worlds together. I wanted to have like a bigger thing, you know, like instead of like segregating the scene, like, oh, well, they're just t-shirt guys and they're hype guys and they're, oh, those are just the true vintage rockabilly guys. I was like, let's get it all under one roof, make this like more of an immersive experience. Kind of had some lofty ideas and plans that didn't all pan out.
We'll get into that.
But
it's kind, you know, vintage clothing in general is super popular right now. It's fashion. People wear this shit. Like this is clothing. So fashion, you know, we're trying to bring all these things together. A wearable clothing market where people can go and shop. All types of people. Everyone can find something they like. You know, this isn't a collector's market. Although you can find collectible things there.
Yeah. But we wanted to be able to service everyone. So if like you were like a middle-aged mom who wanted to like get a nice 50s dress, you could find it there. If you're like a 16-year-old kid who wanted to get a Dragon Ball Z shirt, you can find it there. If you're like a 30-year-old guy who's like trying to fill out your Smashing Pumpkins t-shirt collection, you can probably find it there. Like a little bit of something for everyone. Get your motorcycle jacket on. You know, we had jewelry vendors there. We had some record vendors there selling vintage vinyl. And like, you know, we're definitely doing more. And the plans for the future is to get more diverse, you know, like
bigger audience. So let's run it back because we want to know about throwing this event. Yeah. So you came to me 6 weeks out. You and Mark had already been working on it. You're working on it with the guys who got the space.
Yeah.
So this is also something he told me in the beginning. He said, okay, we got the space for the weekend. It's a space that they're potentially going to be renting out long term. It's a warehouse. It's kind of like what was the neighborhood of Toronto?
Stockyards,
which is like half hour out of downtown, essentially, right?
Yeah. I mean, half hour west out of downtown, depending on traffic.
Super cool building when we finally got in there. But he throws this. He says, they're having a rave on the Friday night, and then we're having the show on Saturday morning, which we got to flip from a rave. You know, if you've ever been to a rave, they go all night, and then we got to flip it to a show in the morning, and then it goes Saturday, Sunday. Now,
that was the other thing too. I didn't want to have, because most of the shows out there are like a one hitter winners, like one day. And I was like, no, I want this to be a 2-day thing because that was the old clothing show. It was a weekend long event. So for people that have to work Saturday, come Sunday. And one of the, you know, the selling points, marketing points was like, if you bought entry on Saturday, you can come back Sunday.
Yeah. And a lot of, like you
for
said,
free.
People can only come one day, depending on work, maybe. Also, vendors, if they're slugging and lugging all this shit out, they get 2 days out of it selling versus 1 day.
Yeah.
You know, typically, like if you're going to rent a place, it's probably not going to cost you much more for the double days if the place is empty anyway. Not like back-to-back events usually happen in these spaces. So made sense. Although that morning when we were in there, I was like, fuck, it would have been easier if we just did on the Sunday and had the whole Saturday
To clean it and
clean
get
it
ready.
and prep. But it all worked out. So we'll get to that part too. So as far as like your first go doing this, running an event, getting ready, like run us through like what that looks like, what it takes, and like some of the things you thought maybe you weren't expecting.
Well, I think there's 2 major components, right? Like your biggest component, like your initial component is like you got to get vendors, right? You got to have product there for people to come to, right? You're creating the show first. The show is made up of your vendors. They're the backbone of your entire show.
Yeah.
So that was the initial thing. You know, thank God I know most people in Toronto. So does Mark, our partner on this, and you know we have a good reputation. So that part came fairly. It was pretty intuitive, like it was pretty easy, so to speak.
Because our relationships in the business, F as in Frank, you
For our
personally,
Yeah.
Deadstock Depot's relationships, the trust that we've built with these people over time of, you know, them knowing who we are and
Sure.
what we do, the integrity. So,
But there's a caveat to that, which is that like you're also putting your rep on the line a bit, because I was selling these guys not a dream. I was selling them my vision, right?
selling them the dream, baby.
I was selling these guys my dream, my vision, Mark's vision, our vision, collectively, Drew's vision as well, which was like, look, we're going to put on this great clothing show. We're going to get it fucking rammed. And, you know, you got to do this show. We're like, and some people were reluctant. Some people that I know for a long time didn't do it. They were weary of the area that it was in because it wasn't super central. It was the first time we did a show. For whatever reason, they were on the fence and they decided not to do it. Most of them regret it. But that's cool. It's not a blame thing. I was nervous as shit too. So we were able to initially do our like initial reach out, fill that space with vendors. We had over 50 vendors. And so that was the first component. Then once that happened, there's like a massive realization, which was like, if I don't fill this place with attendees, I'm potentially going to fuck a lot of relationships here, or maybe not, or definitely have a lot of people upset, and this blow my chance of doing this again. Because you know how it goes. Like if nobody showed up,
yeah, of course, that's the number one thing. So when you think about an event, it's not rocket science here throwing an event, although does take a lot of organization, it takes a lot of thought. Number one thing is keeping your vendors happy. That's the only thing that you have to worry about, because that means that people came. If people came, the vendors are happy. But also not just people came, people spent money. So that means getting the right people to come and the people that are actually going to shop. So, you know, that's the number one thing about an event in any system or any genre of event you're going to throw is getting the people there to spend the money. Now, you know, so we had to dive into the marketing world at that point.
Absolutely. So that was the second component. That was really like the second part of the equation. The first part was filling the space with vendors, getting everyone to commit, so that we know we've got 50 plus vendors in here, and that was the first part. The second part was, okay, how do we get the people here, the public? How do we reach these people? So, you know, definitely you and Mark were extremely helpful in that regard, because you guys spend a lot of time in marketing. So you guys had a couple go-to guys to do.
Yeah. So we have our marketing plan. We're not going to get into that super detailed here, but the bottom line is that we didn't cheap on marketing. We spent on marketing.
We overspent. We budgeted for marketing, and we overspent by probably about 30 or 40%.
And the reasoning was that we really needed this first event to bang. And that's what we're always going to do. They're always going to bang, because we're going to spend the money and put the effort into marketing that is required to keep the vendors happy.
And to keep it going, because it's a long play. It's not a one and done. So I'd rather, like, profitability for us is secondary to profitability for the vendors. And that's advice I would give to anybody that's trying to throw a successful event that's going to have longevity, is that your money doesn't matter. What matters is the vendor's money, because if they're ready to come back, then you can keep tweaking it and building it out to make it more profitable.
As long as you didn't lose money, like you take all the vendor booth money, realistically should be spent on marketing, or the majority of that money should be spent on marketing, because that's what they're paying for. And it's like, people are happy to pay a higher price for a booth if they know that people will come and spend money and they'll make money. It's very simple. People don't want to come to shitty events where nobody spends money on marketing, and they're just going there to show up and fucking hang shirts on a wall that nobody fucking cares about or buys.
100%.
What's the fucking point of that? Unless you want to just be a bro schmo with all your buds and hang out for the weekend. But
most of the people that we're dealing with, most of the dealers or vendors per se, they're not those kind of people. They're not there to hang out. They run a viable business and they want to make profit. They need to pay their bills.
So to finish off this story, we fucking turned it out. The event was crazy packed. So that morning, we're all kind of, the morning is
I was shitting bricks. I was nervous as hell. I probably had a good game face on, because it's not my first rodeo. Like, I know how to kind of hold it down so I don't freak everybody out. But I was shitting.
And I flew out. I was there for the whole Friday, and then obviously for the event. And I was also freaking, although you had a lot of the brunt of the stress on that. But, because you're there, first of all, we're having to flip the space from the rave to the event. And, it's hard to envision it full of vendors when you're looking at dirty floors and fucking this
empty fucking warehouse.
Just a straight empty warehouse straight after rave. Still smells like the
beer
cloud machine and stale beer.
Yeah.
But it started to fill up with vendors. It looked great. The fucking line was there, and the stream of people was so good all day.
The coffee vendor and pastry vendor showed up on time, got all the vendors' coffees and all the attendees' coffees. Our food truck guy was out there slanging poutine all day.
Great fries.
Yeah, and burgers and dogs and whatever. And, so at the end of the day, yeah, there was some hiccups, but it all worked out. The most important thing was the people showed up with money. We had 2 ATM cash machines in there that were fucking cleaned out by end of Sunday with a lot of cash. And
the vendors were super stoked. They all made money, and a lot of them said this was the best event they've had in Toronto, or one of the top events they had. Like, one of our vendors, shout out Hula Popper, said that he had like a best case scenario goal for the weekend that he hit on Saturday. Meaning Sunday was beyond what he even had projected for sales.
Yeah.
So let's talk about other things to think about for events. Okay, so yeah, tell them about how you bit off more than you could chew.
Well, I wanted to have this be a really immersive event. I wanted to so part of the marketing angle is well, how are you how can you make it attractive to attendees? How can you get more people there? So one of the things that I thought of, which is how can we get the community more involved? So one of the successful things that I've seen in a lot of the US shows is these trading pits. So I was we should have a trading pit component. That kind of fell a little flat. Because I'll admit that I wasn't as organized on that front as I would have liked to have been. B, the space wasn't as clean as we needed it to be to actually have that floor trading thing that normally goes on. Although we created a workaround, we did tables.
We gave everyone tables. People did show up to the trading pit. I think education on trading pits in general is important for the next time, because we had these guys show up. A trading pit to me, I don't know, you guys can leave notes in the comments about this, but a trading pit to me is a buy, sell, trade.
Yeah.
You're there to do whatever. You're there just to fuck around with your shit. Sometimes you're trading, sometimes you're selling, sometimes you're buying. It's it's a buy, sell, trade environment. I think everyone that came to our trade pit was strictly trade.
They only wanted to trade, which kind of threw me off
because there wasn't enough people to make a trade with, but you still had people showing up. And I feel like education about that trading pit scenario is important for the next one.
Absolutely. So I think just more media, more video, more marketing tools that we can explain different aspects is definitely going to be an asset going forward.
But again, we only had by the time we got to marketing, we had 3 weeks, maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So we were, because this was organized so last minute. So we'll have way more time to prep this one on the next go.
Yeah. Another component that I wanted to have was like a panel discussion that just didn't happen.
Again, like when you're thinking of that organization, you need sound system.
You need sound system.
Stage.
You need a
like,
host.
you need a host. You need lighting. You need like a place where people can sit or something.
Absolutely.
Like, that takes a lot of organization that we just didn't have. But that's okay. Next time,
Yeah.
or maybe not next time, but down the road. Who knows?
Yeah. So that didn't come to fruition, but that's definitely still in our thoughts. We might include a component of that. And lastly, we had promised like food trucks, plural, which we did have lined up. We had a guy who's going to be doing great Mexican food, tacos and stuff like that. But unfortunately, it was a two-man team, and one of the guys got COVID like 2 days before the event, so they had to pull out last minute. So that was kind of out of our control. But that wasn't one of the deficiencies there that I was slightly concerned about. But all in all,
But there's more, dude. Don't worry. We got more to talk about. So we had an auction component. We had like a silent live auction formula that we came up with. Jesse kind of came up with this. we had everybody got to put a piece on a wall, which it was a great concept. It needs some development, but how it ran was everybody got to put a piece on a wall. Then you would go on the BidSitch IG account and bid on the pieces. So the people in the show could bid, but the people outside the show could also bid. I think ideally next time we'll have a real silent auction where you actually have to write your bid on a sheet. Yeah. Everyone gets to put a piece up on the wall. You get to do proper silent bids, so only the people in the event are bidding. In my opinion, would be better. Yeah,
I think that's better.
We did like a live auction event from
on the Sunday
show and kind of had people helping out. And I think again, if we do that, like we need someone who just is there to do that. Yeah. And like maybe like a personality who's like live the whole day, walking around, and then also auctioning pieces, because for us, it took us out of the show, which sucked because you're kind of like, we're at a show. We should be with the people at the show.
At the show. Exactly. But I think that's a really viable concept that I want to develop more, which is like having someone there all day live. And that could have its own programming where he's just going around to different booths.
End of the World was there from New York, who was live most of the day. Yeah. But organizing that concept with like our account or something, so that like he's actually auctioning people's shit off,
auctioning people's shit off. Also like going booth to booth, maybe like doing a 5-10 minute interview with each different vendor just to kind of get their lay of the land, promote each vendor to big up their following on IG. And also provide an experience for people who can't make it to the show that are maybe in a different province or different country, that they can kind of see what it's like, so that maybe for the next one, they're like, you know what, screw it, I'm going to fly to Toronto for this because this looks like a great event. So there's lots of more things to develop. We do want to maybe even develop a component of entertainment for the next one that's like goes into the evening a little bit more. Another thing that we're working on for the next one is an area that can have alcohol sales, so you can go and have a beer.
Yeah, beer garden. It'll be a summer or late spring event where the weather will be good, so it could be an outside beer garden.
Yeah, outside beer garden. And possibly, some live music, some bands, or some, music things going on. So, so there's lots of things in the works, but keep it locked because we're coming back in the spring. We're loosely shooting for June, but there will be an announcement soon.
So, yeah. Big up on the event. This man, ballsy for doing it. Just a super short notice.
I have to give, look, could never have done this without Mark. He was a fucking driving force in this thing. Mark Keeling at Google Chrome Boy on IG. He's 1/3 of Deadstock Depot. Shout out Dan and Ty. And, he freaking crushed it too. And I think like, between the three of us, we freaking made it happen.
Yeah, people with the right experience in the right place know what's going on. We can make it happen. And we're being real with you guys. There's hiccups. There's lots of things that didn't pan out. But at the end of the day, like what did happen, I'm going to put some on this podcast because we have footage of talking to vendors. They all had a fucking great time. Everybody made money. the attendee, like we had attendees coming up to us going like, this was fucking rad. Like I saw the ad, I'm here, I'm loving it. It's a great idea. Like people were so stoked and it was so fucking fulfilling.
It was so fulfilling.
So fulfilling when the doors open and there's a lineup after like you plan this for a period of time. You're in there slugging it out. You're tired as shit because you've had days of like prep, cleaning. Is it going to work out? Is the fucking truck going to come here? Is this going to happen? And then it happens.
What a weight lifted off my shoulders. I was like, wow, I can breathe. I could have like just gone to bed at that point because I was just like sleepless nights for a while leading up to it, nerves like crazy. But
you're changing the floor plan like
on the fly,
half hour before people are showing up to set up.
Yeah, we had a lot of and there was like hiccups even with the space because it was almost a construction site still. It's still under construction, like it's still under renovating it, so to speak. So there's a lot of shit going on there, and some of the lights weren't working that were directly over top of like existing floor plan that we created. And it was Saturday morning at like 6 a.m. We couldn't get the electrician to come, so me and Mark had to change the floor plan like on the fly because we couldn't put a vendor in a space that had no light. So we've switched it all up. But you know, those are the things that come up. You gotta expect the unexpected, plan for the worst, and hope for the best. And you know what? At the end of the day, we made it happen. I just want to give one last shout out to Drew Hale, Gabriel, James Bowie, my boys who are the guys who are really behind the space itself. The space is called the Black Creek Assembly. It's like kind of a multifaceted event space. There's going to be a lot of amazing programming going on there in the next 6-8 months. So keep your eyes on that.
Go follow the Old Clothing Show account, guys.
Please.
It's the Old Clothing Show, straight up.
Yeah.
Now, plans for the Old Clothing Show is, you know, we have the team here. We're going to continue to roll these out. You know, stay tuned because we're going to be announcing coming to different towns. Who knows where it's going to go? Next one again will be in Toronto, and then the world.
Yeah.
You never know. Stay tuned for that.
We're bringing it to you.
And yeah, thanks to all the fucking vendors that trusted in us. That was a huge thing.
Thank you so much.
You know, everybody really, it's a big trust thing because you're trusting us to come through with what we say we're going to do.
Yeah.
Thank God we did, and you guys all did well. Super stoked on that. You know, again, follow the channel, follow the podcast, go listen to all the old episodes. I'm back next week with a fresh guest, and this is the 4th in a row Monday drop. I haven't missed yet. Okay, guys, so I'm keeping it real. Keep it coming on the Mondays.
See ya.
Peace.
What do you think of the event?
It's great. Good vibes, really good vibes, good stuff, good gear, good people.
What do you think of the Canadian dollar?
I love it. I love it.
So, was it worth the trip?
It's getting there. I haven't calculated my, deal, but
Dude, you got to hang out with us, bro.
that's always worth it. But you're saying financially.
That was
I don't even
specific.
think about that because I'm, having such a good time with you guys.
What do you think of the event?
It's amazing. Fantastic turnout. Ready for another day.
Crazy show. Trust me, it's gonna be the best show in Toronto.
Is the best show in Toronto. It's happening right now, under my feet.
So, we don't really care about the show. We want fishing tips.
Fishing tips.
Yeah. Bass tips.
I got no tips.
Come on! Share something.
What do you want? What kind of tip?
What's your favorite lure? Besides a hula popper.
You know what? Honestly, it's probably just going to be a Senko. Rubber worm. It's very
What
versatile.
color, though?
For largemouth, black and blue flake. For smallmouth, green pumpkin.
Okay, that's what we needed. What do you guys think of the event?
It was very, very good. I would definitely recommend coming to the next one.
What's your IG? Vintage Way
CA.
Your IG.
Ariel Garbs.
Okay, how did you like the event?
Event's been great. Turnout's been really good. It's been busy pretty much all day. We're winding down the last hour now, and it's still pretty steady, so it's been good.
It was amazing. Sold a lot of cool shit that I never thought I'd sell, like cassettes, vinyls, toys. So it was cool to see that everybody was buying a little bit of everything.
Thanks for coming out.
Yeah.
Good spread of stuff, yeah.